Hello, everybody, and good evening. Thank you so much for joining us on this US panel session. My name is Martine Gagnon. I'm the college counselor at Wetherby Senior School and at Charterhouse School. I also work with UES Education, and we work with several UK-based schools, so a lot of you will already know me in some capacity. Tonight, we are very lucky. We have some fabulous universities here with us to talk about their institutions and to answer all of your questions. So I will, we lost somebody. Okay, so let's get started because you want to hear the university speaking more than me. So I will... Welcome back. And so we will start with Mr. Burgess from Tulane University.
Perfect. Wonderful. Thank you so much, Martine. And it's great to be here. I'm going to share a couple of visuals to aid in my presentation. So a brief introduction about me. My name is Paul Burgess. I'm the Director of International Admission at Tulane University, which also happens to be my alma mater. So I completed my undergraduate degrees in economics and anthropology, and then also a graduate program in sort of poly-econ and anthropology. So yeah, I'll go ahead and get started. That's just a little bit about me. I'll give you an overview of the university. You can see the front end of our residential campus here. We are located in the city of New Orleans, so on the southern coast of the United States. Of course, New Orleans, well known for being the capital of the French colonial empire in the New World, but of course it's been part of the United States since the early 1800s. We maintain a really strong diversity in our student body. So students are coming from all around the world. And in fact, 90% of students come from out of state or outside of the US to spend their 4 years on our campus located just about 5 miles from downtown New Orleans. To speak a little bit about academics, I think Tulane is very well known for academic flexibility. If you are admitted to our institution, you are essentially admitted to all 75 programs and majors. Now, those fit into 5 undergraduate schools or disciplines: architecture, business, the liberal arts, science and engineering, as well as public health. But as a Tulane student, you absolutely have the ability to switch between programs or to add in double majors and minors. That's something about 70% of our students do. I always joke that no program is the forgotten stepchild, but some of our more well-known programs tend to be in business finance, in political economics, in biomedical engineering, in architecture, and then some really stellar, extremely small programs in things such as the visual arts and glassblowing. Tulane has, I think, the #2 ranked glassblowing studio in the country. So even if that's not going to be your major, definitely the ability to learn new disciplines, new media, and be able to apply that in a variety of different ways. I'll move on from there just to chat a little bit more about how academics and research tie together. Tulane is a Tier 1 research-based institution, meaning that your professors have 2 jobs. Half of their job is to teach you in the classroom, and the other half of their job is to create new information in their specific field. So work on publications and even the new textbooks for the disciplines that you're studying. 93 different research institutes and centers housed on campus, things like the Tulane Brain Institute, the Murphy Center for International Development, the Payson Center for Political Economy, the Tulane Cancer Research Center. And research is being done across all disciplines, right? It's not just within STEM. Research is being applied within business and engineering. We file 15 new patents each year, whether that be for a new medical device or some sort of innovation within the corporate sector, within computer science. There's a lot of ways in which you can practically apply what you're studying in the classroom to the real world around you. And that's very much accessible to you as an undergraduate, with a student to faculty ratio of 8:1 and an average class size of 20 students. This just definitely means that you work very closely with your professors. It's also an extremely active student campus. I mentioned that students are coming from all over the world. and that most students are the only person from their high school to enroll at Tulane. So whether that be from your school in the UK or from a school in New York, you probably won't know anybody else when you get to campus. And so students are extremely involved for that reason. That's how you tend to make some of those most important connections. Maybe one of the more unique aspects of the academic program is the way in which community service is integrated into your studies. We were the first university in the United States to do that, meaning that you apply what you're learning in the classroom to the betterment of others in the community around you. So our architecture students work on designs for sustainable and affordable housing. Our business students work with not-for-profits to help them create a marketing plan. Our psychology students work on developing curricula with the public charter schools in the United States and our surrounding region. So lots of different ways for you to gain practical experience, but doing so with a lens towards improving your local community. Just to touch a little bit on the city of New Orleans, where we're located, it offers so many wonderful opportunities in terms of internships, cultural interactions, music, of course, New Orleans being the birthplace of jazz. So it's just a really vibrant, wonderful place to live. And a city of about 1.5 million people, so very much a place that you don't feel overwhelmed, with direct flights to London, making it a pretty easy connection to get back home. We are also known to have more festivals than days in the academic year. Pretty much anything you can imagine to celebrate, we've got it going on in New Orleans. Mardi Gras being one of the more famous festivals, one of the parades you see a snapshot of here. And probably most noteworthy is that, yes, classes are canceled for Mardi Gras and some of these bigger festivals. So that's always exciting. Just a couple of our deadlines posted up here, and then I'll post some fun facts and rankings there. Probably most noteworthy is that we have some of the happiest students in the country. So overall, I think a really rewarding experience. And I'm excited to get to speak with you more this afternoon. So I will hand it over to our next presenter.
Thank you so much. Okay, so just before we move on, I just want to let everybody know that if you do have any questions, please feel free to pop them into the Q&A, and we will answer them throughout. So our next presenter, so I'm going to go kind of in order as I have everyone on my screen here. So we have Ms. Marigi from Babson.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Martine. Let me go ahead and share my screen, see if this will work for me. Okay, great. Everyone can see this okay? Wonderful. Thank you so much for having me here with you this evening. My name is Hannah Marigi. I'm one of the associate directors for undergraduate admission at Babson College. A little bit about Babson from a 30,000-foot view. So we are a small specialized business school. We're located right outside of Boston, Massachusetts, in a really beautiful suburb called Wellesley. We're about 10 miles from downtown Boston, and so it might take you anywhere between 30 to 45 minutes to drive from campus into downtown Boston or vice versa. Our students really enjoy having that quintessential true college campus setting, but also having really great access to a major city as well. We might be among the smaller US universities that you might be looking at or considering. We're about 2,800 undergraduate students. We look to enroll an incoming first-year class around 600. Average class size is around 30 students with a student-to-faculty ratio of 14:1. So again, very much that small personalized college campus community here at Babson. And the photo you can see here on your screen, this is a really beautiful fall foliage shot of our campus. That's actually our admission office right there. So if you're ever able to come and make a trip to campus, that's certainly where you would be checking in for any type of on-campus programming. And then within that already pretty niche distinction of being a business school, we're also #1 for entrepreneurship. And we've been ranked #1 now for 26 years and counting. And so for us, we are so grateful that folks can type in entrepreneurship into a Google search bar, and they usually can stumble upon Babson in some way. But it's really important to know how we think about entrepreneurship, because I think as underclassmen students in high school with so many colleges and universities out there, you might be wondering, well, okay, I don't know for sure yet what I want to study. And even if I do have an interest in business, then I hear that Babson is the #1 school for entrepreneurship. How does that actually apply to me? So I think what's important to know is that our goal is not to train students to be entrepreneurs at Babson, but it's to teach you how to think like one. We want to make sure that no matter what type of pathway you pursue at Babson and beyond, that you have a really strong skill set to be successful. And so we are actually not known for sending students into one particular industry of business. They go forth and do all different types of things. So sure, if you have an interest in the startup culture, if you want to create your own idea or company, if you want to be your own boss, obviously no better place to come than the #1 school for entrepreneurship, but we really do see students do it all. So they will go into work in investment banking, consulting, work for one of the top 4 accounting firms. They'll go on to work in the tech field, go to law school after Babson, civil service, nonprofit sector, you name it, we have students who are doing it. And so again, really that emphasis on a very strong business education and making sure that you are really well-rounded, both with technical business knowledge, but also your soft skills as well. And so the one thing I always like to highlight in any type of pitch about Babson that I do is we have an incredible first-year intro to business course. If you're familiar with Shark Tank, that's pretty much what the concept is in this class. And so we have a 7-credit year-long first-year intro to business course where you are put into teams of 15 to 20 students, and you are tasked with coming up with the best idea that you can for a business. You're going to run that business from start to finish over the course of your freshman year, in addition to taking other more traditional courses. And at the end of the year, you liquidate the company and you donate all proceeds to charity. It's an incredible experience. You get seed money from the college. Your professors in this class will serve as sharks and they'll grant you usually up to $3,000 to actually run this business. So it is an incredible first-year experience. And we really make sure that we're setting the tone and the stage for our curriculum by having this hands-on, really practical approach to learning happening in your very first year. But overall, again, that focus on really a blend of both business and liberal arts. Over the course of your first 2 years, you're taking intro classes into all these different areas of business and getting that strong foundation. And then you're working off of that foundation as an upperclassman student. And you're able to pick up to 2 concentrations to really specialize your pathway during your time at Babson. We're also really lucky to have 2 other colleges in Wellesley, both Babson, of course, and then Olin and Wellesley. And so students at any of those 3 universities can actually cross-register and take courses at other institutions as well. Of course, plenty of opportunities to study abroad, over 100 approved programs in 40 countries across the world. We actually find that about 60% of every Babson senior class will actually go abroad. So it is very integrated directly into our culture. About 30% of our entire undergraduate student population is international, strictly speaking, non-US passport holders. And so I think what happens is students are coming to campus from across the country, across the world, and they're being inspired and also are encouraging their classmates and peers to also get out there and see the world. Incredible pre-professional focus at Babson, obviously, being that niche business school. So our students have an incredible opportunity for internships. We employ virtually 100% of our students within 6 months of graduation. As you can see here, making a wonderful starting salary of just over $71,000 US as well. So I could really go on and on about the Babson experience. I've worked here for almost 11 years now, and it's just a place that I really believe in the opportunities that our college is providing for students. And yes, it starts in year 1 with that course where you start your own business, with that very diverse student population from all across the world. And that really does manifest itself in these opportunities that you see here also. So really happy to be here today. Happy to answer more questions about Babson, but I'll go ahead and wrap it up there for the next presenter.
Thank you so much. So I'm going to pick on Miss Lisa Mortini, who's next on my screen, please, representing NYU.
Thank you so much, Martin. Let me try to share my screen as well. All right. Okay, everyone, I hope you can see my screen. Please let me know if this doesn't work. It's very nice to meet you all. I see we have a lot of participants tonight, so I think you're in the right place if you're curious about US education. My name is Lisa Mortini. I've been with NYU for just under 5 years now. Be super happy to talk to you about our school, but also answer any questions that you may have afterwards. On the page right here is a QR code that you can scan. It will take you to a form so you can stay in touch with us. It has been literally designed for you today. It's your own unique QR code, so please enjoy it, and it will come back towards the end of this presentation. So things to know about NYU. We are one of the largest private research universities in the US. We have about 50,000 students, and roughly half of them are studying at undergraduate level. And the vast majority of those students will be found on our New York campus. This is where we were born and bred, as our name indicates. You will find also just over 2,000 students on the Abu Dhabi campus and just under 2,000 on the Shanghai campus. So what does this mean? This means that really NYU is part of its own big global network, that we have 3 main degree granting campuses where you can do your US style education, get your NYU degree, either in New York in the US, in Abu Dhabi in the UAE, or in Shanghai in China. Let's talk about New York and the opportunities there. Normally, when I do this in person, I ask for a show of hands, and most people usually have been to New York, which is always exciting. And we are a campus without walls, really in the heart of the village. So if you've gone down Fifth Avenue and you ended up in Washington Square Park, chances are you've actually visited NYU before. We are very much integrated in the city. We want our students to really make the most of being in such an exciting place, in terms of having access to potential internships and recruiters, guest speakers for events, opportunities to audition for all our artistic students. There's so much at your fingertips. And that's a big thing for us, is to have the students really generally having a great city experience as much as they would have a university experience. At NYU in New York, we have 10 schools and colleges. Our largest one is the College of Arts and Science, which really operates under the liberal arts style of education. And that is also the case for Abu Dhabi and for Shanghai. They are also liberal arts colleges. What that means really is that you will have a cross-disciplinary core curriculum that you need to take, and then you can start taking electives across the board in all sorts of different subjects. And you have until the end of your second year to make up your mind to say, I'm going to formally declare my major or my minor, any combination thereof. And it's a very exciting thing for students to do, because it's so different from what is expected of you in the UK or in continental Europe, where you apply to the subject. When you apply to the College of Arts and Science at NYU New York or our Abu Dhabi campus or Shanghai campus, you're actually applying to the institution first. We have 270 areas of studies at the College of Arts and Science and about 26 different majors in Abu Dhabi, where they specialize a little bit more in engineering and the arts, I would say. And Shanghai has 19 majors with a slight specialty in sciences and business. In New York, we also have 9 other professional schools. So if you are interested in applying to our business program, you can apply to Stern School of Business. We have Tandon School of Engineering that has its own campus in Brooklyn in the Metrotech area. We have, what else do we have? Our School of Public Policy, our School of Nursing, our School of Professional Studies. We have Tisch, our School of the Arts. So if you wanted to be a filmmaker, a dancer, a music producer, and so on. Steinhardt, our School of Culture, Education, and Human Development. We also have my favorite, which is Gallatin. Gallatin is an amazing program that allows you to create your own major. So this is not for the undecided. This is for the passionate who want to combine completely different subjects into their own, path of studies. And that's very, very exciting. About 300 student clubs at NYU New York, lots and lots and lots and lots to do. Even sports, even though we are in the heart of the city, you can still practice sports. We are generally a D3 university, but we have a Division I fencing team in case that's of any interest. Let me talk to you briefly about Abu Dhabi. This is my favorite campus of NYU. I spent a lot of time there, and it's absolutely stunning. Very, very well-resourced campus. And most of our students are actually undergraduate students. So what this means is that any research that you'll do while in Abu Dhabi will be driven by the undergraduate cohort. So you're the one in the lab making the research happen. And we have 6 forms of engineering in Abu Dhabi, including bioengineering, which is our new major, as well as a new business major. We have pre-health track, pre-law track, legal studies major, everything you can think of, and also an excellent art center. So one thing to know about the Abu Dhabi campus is that it was purpose-built really for NYU, and so the resources are fantastic. It is also our most competitive campus to get into. 2% this year, that was a little bit intense, but it's a campus that really will have the best academic minds together thinking about how to solve problems in that region of the world and abroad. It's also a well-resourced campus in terms of financial aid, if that is of any interest. Briefly about Shanghai, I want to tell you that this is a great opportunity for you to earn 2 degrees. You'll earn the NYU degree and the NYU Shanghai degree, which is actually recognized as a Chinese university by the Ministry of Education in the country. And that allows you to potentially stay and work in the country. So it gives you a lot of flexibility once you graduate. Shanghai also offers you the opportunity to really learn Mandarin, and the class is really interesting because we are a very international university, and in New York we have 120 nationalities, 115 in Abu Dhabi. In Shanghai, it's usually about 80 nationalities, but half the student body will be actually composed of Chinese nationals. And so all of our international students, their first year roommate will be a Chinese national. So you're going to have to get those intercultural skills and language skills really honed up, because you're going to be every day chatting in Mandarin, and we find that very, very exciting. If that's not enough for you, this is the rest of our network. We also, on top of the 3 campuses, have 12 study away sites around the world, including 2 in the US and across all continents except Antarctica. I apologize to the polar bears and the penguins, but there's plenty for you to do across the NYU sites. And the vast majority of our students will go on a study away experience in their 2nd or 3rd year. Our students are also very well supported to achieve their dreams at NYU. We're very conscious of being very large, of having a big international cohort. So we have student success offices. We have international student offices that are there to guide you into understanding this new process. We have, of course, career centers across all 3 of our campuses that will be there to guide you if you're applying for internships, if you're applying for full-time positions, as well as graduate schools. We want you to really keep that in mind once you graduate from NYU, that we are hoping that you will be successful anywhere that you go, and you'll be able to create connections with roughly, well, not all of them, but we have 500,000 alumni around the world. So at least you'll be able to get in touch with a few. I think I might be running out of time. So I just wanted to briefly tell you that the type of students that we're looking for are students who are very globally minded, students who are very proactive in the classroom and academically gifted, and students who want to do good and want to have an impact on developing themselves and developing their communities. If you have any questions, these are my contact details. I know we don't have a chat function, but I'll try to find a way to put it in the Q&A as well. Please feel free to scan the QR code again to stay in touch. And thank you so much. I hope I didn't go over too much. And I think we're going to pass on to University of Chicago, which is very exciting too.
Yes, thank you. So yes, without further ado, Katie Key from, am I pronouncing that properly?
Quill is perfectly fine, or Haschewski, which is the name you'll see on our website too. So
great. Yeah, I'm French Canadian, so I always fall back into whatever.
I totally understand.
Great. So the floor is yours. Thanks.
Yeah. So I'm. Hi, everybody. I am doing this where I stand in front of the little screen here. So hopefully you can see all of the slides. And if not, feel free to let me know. But I like to talk about the University of Chicago for all of you. My name is Katie Haschewski. Just again, to say that I am our Director of Outreach and Communications, meaning any of the emails or things that you get in the mail from us, I have probably had a hand in. But I am also very excited to be the person who reads applications for students applying from the UK and London and schools in the area. So I have gotten to know your school particularly well. I have been to visit before as well in person. And so it's nice to understand the UK population and the students that are coming from you all, in addition to reading those applications. So the University of Chicago is an institution located, surprise, in the city of Chicago, which I'll talk a little bit more about in a little bit. But we are an institution of about 7,000 undergraduate students. That makes us a mid-sized institution in terms of US institutions. And our students are from all over the United States, all 50 states, and all over the world, actually. 17% of our students are international students, and our #1 represented country outside of the United States on campus is actually the United Kingdom. So we had over 60 students coming each year, meaning we have a very strong population of students coming from the UK. So it is nice to have that community on campus, in addition to having a huge group of students from all over the world right at your fingertips to learn from and grow from on campus as well. We are a liberal arts college set within one of the largest, strongest research universities in the world. What does the liberal arts mean? You heard a lot of us talk about the liberal arts, so I think it's really important to define that. It's quite different for US institutions. So the liberal arts means that you will, for a portion of your undergraduate experience, be studying in fields such as English, math, and science and languages, areas that are not necessarily your chosen specialty or your chosen major. This is because we believe in the liberal arts and developing you as a scholar, somebody who can ask questions about multiple topics. You are going to be a very well-rounded learner and thinker when you graduate, in addition to also taking on a major in your chosen field or specialty. So you're well-rounded, but also going to be very specialized within your field as well. This is why US institutions are typically a 4-year program as opposed to a 3-year program that you might find in the UK or internationally. At UChicago, we also have over 160 campus research centers and institutes, very small class sizes for our students. One of the things that is most poignant, or that I like to talk about most about the University of Chicago, is our strong commitment to freedom of speech or freedom of inquiry. And this means that on campus, we are very, very dedicated to making sure that our students have are empowered to ask big questions. They are empowered to grapple with ideas, question each other, debate in the classroom. We do not disinvite speakers or people because they have radical ideas. Instead, our students are encouraged to debate those ideas and take on those ideas so that when you are going to go out into the world after you graduate or into other courses, you are able to think more deeply about topics because you have been forced to look at ideas that are different from those that you may hold. Because of that, we have now this number is actually higher, over 97 Nobel Prize winners associated with the University of Chicago, in addition to a huge number of other awards and research discoveries that have happened at the University of Chicago. Everything from the discovery of different types of dinosaurs by several of our faculty members to the discovery of REM sleep, rapid eye movement sleep, for self-sustaining nuclear reaction, or the development of the field of behavioral economics. All of those things are associated with the University of Chicago. Now, at UChicago, our liberal arts curriculum is going to be really focused within our core curriculum. When you look at US institutions, there are core curriculums, which are going to be more prescribed curriculums, meaning all undergraduate students are going to be taking the same set of courses. And then you have more open curriculums, which you don't have any prescribed courses. At UChicago, we have a nice mix of that, and that we do have prescribed courses, but there is some choice within those courses that you take. The really strong benefit of something like a core curriculum that we find at the University of Chicago is that you have a shared conversation amongst all UChicago students for about a third of your classes. These classes are taught in roundtable Socratic style seminars, so you're able to kind of discuss in the classroom. The classes are taught where your focus is going to be on reading primary resources. You're not going to be reading a textbook, you'll be reading straight from the source. And so students really enjoy that experience of being able to ask questions of each other, ask questions of the professor, and really determine their opinions about a topic. Students come out of UChicago saying their core curriculum classes tended to be some of their favorite courses at the university, even more so than their major courses sometimes. Now, we do have over 50 majors, 50 minors associated with available to students at UChicago. You have until the end of your 3rd year to actually choose a major. Another very big difference from UK institutions is that many US institutions, you can apply to the university and change your mind in what you want to major in, or you can be undecided. That's perfectly acceptable, and we have many students that do. When you're admitted to the University of Chicago, you're admitted into all of our undergraduate programs. You have time to discover your interests. So maybe you never had an opportunity to take a computer science class in high school or in your secondary school, and you find a really strong passion for that at university. That's absolutely okay. You can choose to take on those courses and become a computer science major, even though you originally thought you were going to be an English major at the university. Very strong research opportunities on campus and off campus as well. Over 80% of students at UChicago are involved in research and sometime during their time at the university. You can see some of the kind of options there. We do manage 2 national laboratories, in addition to being the host of 2 sites that the University Department of Energy has selected to develop quantum internet, the idea of unhackable internet. And we also just received a massive donation from the Zuckerberg Foundation to develop innovation and focus on that quantum internet as well. So really strong opportunities for students in a variety of fields. Really strong focus on careers as well. Our students are going all over the world after they graduate. That starts from your first year all the way through your 4th year and through graduation. 96% of our recent graduates, so those were by graduation, students were employed or had plans in place, meaning graduate school, or they were starting a company on graduation day. So our students are highly, highly successful after they graduate, go all over the world. On campus, our students live in residential houses. I like to say that our residential house system, our college houses, is kind of like Harry Potter on steroids, and that we have 48 houses and 7 different residence halls. You will have a house community that you become friends with, students that are 1st through 4th year students, resident heads, and you do have that house experience and community. They do compete against each other for a house cup, have long tables in the dining hall where they can dine together. As far as I have found out yet, there's no evil house, but I'll keep you updated if I find one. And then, of course, all this is set in the city of Chicago. We are located in the Hyde Park neighborhood. You can see this right in the front of this slide here, if you can see it. In that we have a beautiful Gothic campus, traditional kind of beautiful botanic garden for our students to enjoy college experience. You really have that college town feel in the city, but then a really quick transit right to downtown. So in our neighborhood, we have coffee shops and restaurants and everything you could want. But if you want to go downtown, if hanging out in the financial district of a downtown is your cup of tea all the time, you can do that. We're only about a 15-minute ride away from downtown, in addition to access to everything else that the city of Chicago has right at your fingertips as well. Chicago is the 3rd largest city in the US, a city of about 3 million people, and one of the world's busiest airports. So access to and from London, super easy to do. So with that, I will stop sharing screen. There are some questions there if you have any questions, but you can also see our website there too.
Thank you so much. So thank you so much to our 4 university representatives for being with us today. We do have a few questions kind of starting to pop up, but one of them that I would like to address is there's a lot of, I believe, kind of working with students and families based here in the UK. I think there's a lot of kind of misconceptions about what liberal arts really kind of stands for. And I think that, we've addressed it a little bit here, but I think I wouldn't mind if each one of you could kind of talk about what liberal arts looks like at each of your institutions, and maybe even give a bit of an example, like what a student could kind of explore over their 4 years. Can I start with you, Hannah at Babson, please?
Absolutely. I would say that we're a little bit of the anomaly here because we're an undergraduate business school. So for us, your degree that you're receiving if you come to Babson is a Bachelor of Science in Business Administration. And so that is the degree that every single student is offering. But as I like to say, we very much recognize that it's very important to educate both sides of the brain, as I like to say, right? So yes, we're providing all of this great technical knowledge to our students in the business field, but also making sure that we are fine-tuning and developing those soft skills as well, right? And so that comes through in public speaking, learning how to be a successful team leader, a supportive team member, having strong analyzation of text, having strong writing skills. And so for us, even though the foundation of our curriculum is business, we do have a few required liberal arts courses, writing across contexts. We have students take at least 2 of those courses. We also have a foundation of critical theory course as well, and a few others that students get to pick and choose the specific type of subject areas they want to take in those foundation liberal arts courses. So for us, it's more about a few of those foundation courses to make sure those soft skills are strong to get you started. But from there, you're actually able to pick and choose, do I want to take theater classes? Do I want to take creative writing courses? We have a lot of courses at Babson relating to all different types of industries within business, but how that connects back to how we think about liberal arts and how we think about not only the economic value of what folks are doing, but really that social value as well. So I would say for us at Babson, it's a little bit different. It is a lot more of a focus on business, but at the same time, those types of liberal arts classes, writing, history, philosophy, psychology, is all there, but it definitely relates a bit back more specifically to that focus on business.
Great, thanks. And Paul at Tulane, what do liberal arts look like?
Yeah, absolutely. So Tulane is actually the combination or merger of two different universities from the early 1800s. One was a purely liberal arts-based institution. The other was more medicine and STEM. So a really strong tradition in the liberal arts now that those are combined, and a really high proportion of our students will double major between those different disciplines. So you have some unique programs in the liberal arts, such as political economy, with focuses on law and morality, but also a lot of students who are considering that major double majoring within the business school to see the sort of practical application of what they study, or being able to focus on the highly theoretical nature of many different liberal arts programs and see the way in which that theory applies in the real world through an internship, right? So studying the theory of economics or communications, and then seeing how that plays out by working on economic impact studies for, let's say, the redevelopment of historic districts in the sort of colonial district of Old World New Orleans. So seeing the interplay between those, I think, is highly important. And at an institution like Tulane that has the tradition of liberal arts, but still a focus on practical application of study, that's really where I see the intersection.
Thanks. And Lisa, what does it look like at NYU?
Yes, so not too dissimilar, to be honest. We do have a core curriculum at mostly the College of Arts and Science in Abu Dhabi and in Shanghai as well. In New York, our core is really a mix of seminars to help you understand how to research. We have writing program, foreign languages, culture classes, scientific classes. It's very, very similar to other universities, but it has to be multidisciplinary because we want the students to really stretch themselves and to see that everything is interconnected. And even though they might be passionate about a specific subject, it's incredibly useful to learn about the others. But I also want to mention that in our professional schools, we do have core curriculums as well. So even though you apply to the School of Engineering or the School of Business, you could still have to do a core curriculum. So it's something to bear in mind. Again, this very big difference between applying to a subject like you would if you were going through the UCAS process in the UK, rather than applying to a liberal arts style of education institution in the US, where you'll still have to, if you're really passionate about physics, you still may have to do a foreign language. You still may have to do social sciences or language. But we think it's for the best. We think it's really good that you keep those skills together and you keep going in that direction. So for us, it made sense as well that our professional schools have a form of core curriculum as well.
Thank you. And thank you for dispelling some of the differences between US and UK at the same time there in terms of curriculum. And Katie at UChicago, if you could please say something about the exploration of liberal arts.
Absolutely. So I mentioned it a little bit in my presentation, but the liberal arts at the University of Chicago is really, I mean, we have an interdisciplinary education overall. Everything that we do in your courses will have some form of interdisciplinary education. But our core curriculum is going to be a really strong focus on developing you in the liberal arts, that is developing you as a strong thinker, a strong foundation for your education and your classes overall. And at UChicago, that's about 30% of your courses that are spent in the core curriculum. Typically, those classes are most often taken in your first 2 years to help develop that kind of foundation for your other courses. But you spread it out, you choose your courses, so you can spread it out over 4 years as you see fit and as you want. But they really are going to be a strong opportunity for you to develop yourself as a learner and a thinker.
Fantastic, thank you. So now that we've kind of explored a little bit about what, the different curriculum might look like in the US, one of the biggest questions that UK-based students always have is how important are the SATs and the ACTs? And this is also something I always like to kind of ask someone. So could I'll let you kind of go forth if anyone has any comments about their test optional or test required or mandatory, and how they're evaluated in context with A-level and IB students, please.
I'm happy to go. So at UChicago, we are test optional. We've actually been test optional since 2016. So we've been test optional for quite some time. But I would say most institutions, they're all going to have different answers. If they are test optional, they are sincerely test optional. That is just going to be one component of an application. If you take a test, submitting that test can have a benefit in the application. They would not be test optional if there was not any benefit towards it. So if you have a strong score, feel free to submit that. That's one additional component of our application. But in the UK, we also understand that you also have a very strong kind of system of standardized testing through A levels and through GCSE scores, or other scores that you may have taken. And so at least at the University of Chicago, we find that many students from the UK do apply test optionally. Either access to the SAT or ACT is less, or you just have that strong foundation of those standardized test scores already. And so it's perfectly okay to do that. We understand the A-level curriculum, IB curriculum, and know how to evaluate those scores with or without testing, additional SAT or ACT testing.
Thanks. I think that's something that, I would like to flag. I often get asked that question, about SAT scores are kind of, the first line of breaching the applications, but I think that it might be grades, beyond everything, because it does sound like most of your institutions are test optional due to holistic admissions in the US. So is anyone, am I wrong? Is anyone here kind of like, nope, test scores are a really big deal for us?
No, there are a handful of institutions that might say that in the US, and I think this is just one of the many times you'll hear re-emphasized that it does depend. We are not based on a system for US admission like UCAS. It is very much independent evaluation. And so while Tulane is still test optional and would follow a similar sort of policy and viewpoint as the University of Chicago, there will maybe just be a few universities that still do look for it.
I will say, though, I do want to say that it is important that if you have taken those tests, you should try to take those tests. And if you are planning to apply to the US, if you have access to that, because testing can be a benefit. We wouldn't ask for it at all if we saw no benefit to it. So if you do have strong testing and you want to submit that with your application, it can benefit, but you're not at a disadvantage if you do not submit testing. It's an additional component to an application, but I do want to say that it can be another positive in an application if you do have testing. So I think that's important to note as well.
And if I can just add here as well, Babson is also test optional. We committed to a 4-year test optional period in the height of the pandemic. So we'll be test optional guaranteed 1 more year. So any rising high school seniors that are here will be test optional in this next upcoming application cycle. And I think that the majority of universities who did decide to go test optional more recently, like Babson, we've configured our application review process so that if students do have lower scores that in the past would bring their application down, that no longer applies in our application process. So truly, as we've all been talking here, if you do have scores, if you have sat for these exams, they're only going to help you if they're strong. The way that we review our applications are not going to hinder you in any way. If you're submitting scores that might be a little bit lower. And the way that I like to talk about whether or not to know to submit or to not to submit, that's always the big question. First and foremost, it's a very personal decision. Make sure that you are looking to your support systems, your college counselor, any teachers, that you work closely with your family. And I always say, if you sit for either exam, you get your scores back, you say to yourself, you know what, I'm really proud of these scores. I feel like they are a great representation of who I am also in the classroom. That would be a good sign likely to go ahead and submit scores to the institutions in the US that you might be applying to. If you get your scores back and you say to yourself, you know what, this isn't my best effort forward, I feel like I'm a much stronger student in the classroom, that might be a good indication to maybe withhold those scores. But I know that we had a great answer to this question also in the chat, and making sure that the institutions that you are applying to, that you're taking a look at the middle 50% of admitted student range for scores, because that's always a great indicator, and also a guiding help for whether or not maybe you should submit scores to a particular university.
Yes, Lisa.
Yes, so Martin, you're going to hate me because I'm about to complicate things as per usual. But I want to really rebound on everything that's been said by really saying it completely depends. And I think that's a difficult thing to hear, because you want things to be really easy to figure out in black and white. But unfortunately, every institution has a slightly different policy, and those policies right now are in flux. And that's what's so difficult. So if you are making down, if you're taking down your college list and you're like, okay, I'm going to narrow it down to school XYZ, and that's fine. Really be aware of what their policies are and what they are when you're about to apply, not what they were 2 years ago when you did your research. It's really important that you're aware of this. So just to give you an example as to how I'm going to complicate things, at NYU, we are still test optional for this coming year. And to be honest with you, it's really okay to apply test optional. Last year, roughly half of our application pool was test optional, and roughly half of the offers that we made were to test optional students. So it's perfectly fine. It does not put you in any disadvantage at all. But we are also, and have always been and will ever be, test flexible. What does that mean? That also means that if some of you would want to apply with your A-level predictions, your IB predictions, you can use these as a form of alternate standardized testing. And so let's say you predicted a 40 or a 42 on the IB and you go, ooh, that's really good. Don't waste any time taking the SAT or the ACT, just submit this as testing if you want to. But something to bear in mind is that the people who have been submitting testing throughout the pandemic, because we've been test optional, are the ones that are doing really well. So for us this year, our median SAT has been 1530, which is really high and slightly ridiculous. So you cannot think for yourself that if you get 1500 on the SAT, it's under the median or under the average. It's crazy to think about this. So it's really moved the needles to incredibly high scores. So my recommendation here is know exactly what you're getting into when you apply, know what the school is expecting of you. But if you are applying to NYU, please, please, please focus on your grades. I want to see strong A levels. I want to see strong IB grades much more than I want to see standardized testing. Sorry, Martin, I did say I was going to complicate things.
No, that's actually perfect, because it does come back to it. The grades are what you're doing every day in school and what you're working really hard at. And these will be the culmination of all of your years of hard work through GCSEs into IB and A level. So please focus more on those than thinking, well, if I haven't got a 1500, I can't apply anywhere. So that's what I would say. So we have another question here for all the universities on the panel. Do you offer any financial aid for international students?
I'll go ahead and start off for Tulane. We offer merit-based scholarships based on a student's academic performance. Those do go up to the full cost of tuition. We do also offer need-based aid to international students, and that goes up to maybe, I'd say, about half the cost of tuition. The best way to know what you might receive is to apply. In general, I think Tulane is quite generous with international students, and I'd say of our admitted students from the UK, potentially half were receiving some form of merit or need-based aid.
I'm happy to go. At UChicago, we are need aware in our process of reviewing international students, so students that do not have US citizenship. If you have US citizenship, we do not take need into consideration at all in the review of your application. If you are admitted to UChicago, though, no matter your citizenship, we meet 100% of demonstrated needs. So that means we will give any amount your family's expected, say your family's expected to contribute $5,000 based on your unique family financial circumstances, we will meet everything above that amount we will pay for. So we have really strong need-based financial aid in addition to merit-based scholarships, which about 5 to 10% of students receive.
Thanks. Hannah and Lisa, I see that you've kind of posted some links, but anything you want to add?
Yes, so very similar to UChicago, we are need blind for US domestic students, need aware for non-US citizens, non-US permanent residents. But if we do admit a student, we do commit to fully funding them, just like UChicago. We do so through our Global Scholars Program at Babson. At our institution, our priority is toward meeting as much need-based aid as possible. So we allocate about 90% of all available funding toward need-based aid for students and only about 10% toward merit scholarships. So we don't offer that many merit scholarships. Certainly the priority is toward meeting need-based aid. And I did drop a link to our Global Scholars Program in the Q&A as well.
Thanks. And Lisa?
Sure, very briefly. So at NYU, we are purely needs-based, so we don't really have any merit scholarships, so it's purely on your financial needs. You'll have to fill in a form called a CSS profile, a FAFSA form if you are a US citizen or resident, permanent resident. And with that information, we're going to try to calculate the estimated cost, estimated contribution that you can bring to your studies. It's just to complicate things again, because we have 3 campuses, we have 3 forms of financial aid that are slightly different. In New York, we are need aware, and our financial aid package will be formed of scholarships, student loans, and work study opportunities on campus. In Shanghai, we actually offer slightly less in terms of the entire package. We don't always meet 100% of the demonstrated needs. However, we have stronger scholarships. In Abu Dhabi, we are actually need blind. So the application really is what we base our admissions decision on and the strength of it. And then our financial aid package is very, very generous, and it's purely in scholarship funds. So all of our Abu Dhabi students graduate with no student debt, which is pretty amazing.
Great, thank you. So I see that we're kind of slowly moving towards the end. I have one final question, and this would be for all of the universities. And this is probably one of the most common questions that I get from students. And it's normally when they are wondering between 2 different sorts of activities. Should I do this? Will the universities prefer this? Or should I do that? Will universities prefer that? So I'm wondering if you can say something a little bit about, are there any types of extracurriculars in particular you're looking for from students, or does it depend?
I'm happy to get started. I would encourage students to think of universities, many of sort of the residential campuses that we represent here today, and I'll speak for my own institution, that what we do in admitting students and crafting an incoming freshman class is almost build a miniature utopia. Think of our residential campuses with housing and dining and our own power plants and zip codes and activities and all of this. And we have the privilege to be able to look through individual students with certainly strong academics, but also individual identities, experiences, backgrounds, and interests, and create a really diverse, but also cohesive incoming group of students. So it's not that every student has to be perfectly well-rounded, but rather that we are building a well-rounded incoming freshman class. And so there is no perfect recipe for the right activity, because you don't want to have too many duplicate students, right? So I would say choose the activity that is more individual and speaks to your own interests and passions, even if that means it's the same thing as many other students, because if you truly love it, you will probably shine brighter at it and be more impressive overall on the application. So we're not looking for drones or clones or carbon copies of students on campus. We really want a wide variety of interests and backgrounds.
I love the image of the utopia. I think that's fantastic.
Right, yeah, very, I don't know, hopefully not too 1984.
I'd love to second that completely. I think it's really important to not try to fit into what you think a certain university expects of you, but to be yourself, because we do admit based on fit, partly, it's a big part of the admissions process. And if you're pretending to be someone you're not, we're admitting someone else. and you potentially might be very unhappy on our campus. So you want to demonstrate with the things that you're doing that you are an interesting individual, that you have passions, that you're stretching yourself, challenging yourself, having an impact on the world around you. You're doing things, you're active. It doesn't matter what you do. If you want to breed turtles, if you want to walk dogs from the shelter, if you want to help in the family business, if you want to be the captain of the basketball team, all of these things are great. Do an internship, start a club at school, write, have a YouTube channel, write for a blog. Like all of these things are awesome. Just be active and be yourself. And try new things. Don't hesitate to try new things for sure. And there is a quick question in the Q&A box. Do you give more importance to work experience or extracurriculars? At your level, I don't think it matters so much. I think if you were applying for graduate school, that might be a slightly different story, but it kind of depends a little bit into what you might want to do. So maybe your colleagues from Babson might say, hey, if you've had some internships in certain companies, or if you're an entrepreneur, that might put you in a better standing. I think in general, I don't think it matters so much, but try things. If your idea is to do a summer school, do a summer school. But if your idea is to do a summer internship, that's awesome. All of these things are great. They're going to help you also figure out what you like, what you don't like, what you want to do, what you don't want to do. So just be active, I guess, is what I want to say.
I'll just add here as well that I agree with everything that's been said. And I want to echo that. Don't be choosing activities because you think it's what we want to see. We want you to do what you love and spend time doing what you want to do, because that is how we truly craft a class, as Paul was saying, and bringing people together who are artists, musicians, and athletes, and who do volunteer and walk the dogs at the dog shelter, those that have part-time jobs that you might be working 10, 12, 15, 20 hours a week. That's a big commitment as well. And so be doing what matters most to you. And in turn, when we read your application, we're going to really be able to see that passion come to life on the page. I think a lot of students don't realize how much we can learn about you, even if we've never met you on the road or traveling, because you're pouring your heart and soul into your application, and we can tell what matters most to you about how you talk about it. And I think that really is the most important thing. And just a quick note on us specifically, as Lisa mentioned, being a business school, I think a lot of students assume that we have prerequisites to apply to Babson, that you have had to have taken business courses or done business extracurriculars. Are those wonderful if you have those opportunities? Yes, but we also very much understand there are a lot of schools out there that don't even offer a single business course, or schools that don't offer a single business extracurricular activity, or students who aren't well resourced to have those opportunities. And so for us, there is no prerequisite, no requirement to have any previous business experience, as long as you're able to articulate in your application that you do want to study business. But again, please be true to who you are and what you're choosing to do. That is the most important thing that you can do for yourself in the process.
And any final words for the University of Chicago, Katie?
I think everybody covered it really well. I don't think I have anything to add other than what's already been said. Great.
All right. Well, I think that brings us to within about 15 seconds of our end time. So I'm going to thank our wonderful panelists once more. I hope everyone has their contact details. If not, please reach out to me and I will very happily put you in touch. For those of you during registration, I think there was a box to tick that we would share your contact details as well with the panelists. So that's possible. If you didn't tick that box, but you want to be put in touch, please get in touch with me. So again, for those of you who know me through UES, I'm at martine@ueseducation.com. At Charterhouse, I'm at USA College at charterhouse.org.uk, and at Weatherby, I am US Advisor at weatherbysenior.co.uk. Get in touch in any which way. Thank you again to all of our panelists, and see you soon.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.